Hey, and welcome back. Today we are on part 4 of our series in sanctification, and today is actually the final lesson. So we're wrapping up the series today. Hopefully you have been enjoying it as much as I have. I know sanctification is one of those Christian terms that we don't really spend enough time, I believe, to really dig into and kind of experience what that means and what it's all about. So today we are kind of building on the series. So we've talked about our need to be separate, how God has called us to be separate from this world to stand out. And then we started talking about ways to stand out. What does that look like? I know we talked about forgiveness was the first one, how we need to be people who forgive others. But not only forgive others, we should also ask for forgiveness as well. That should just be a part of who we are. And I know then after that we dug into what being kind and what does kindness look like, and how in a world, especially today, we are supposed to be people who show kindness and show love and compassion to everybody that we meet and come in contact with. And now today we're going to be looking into the last part, which I believe is a big one, and that's humility. Now, have you ever had anyone criticize you, or maybe criticize a plan or something that you're doing? I know I have, and it stinks. It's a horrible feeling. It makes you feel inadequate. It makes you feel like, I wasn't doing a good enough job. Makes you feel dumb. Makes you feel like, well, why am I here? It's a lot of negative feelings that come from it because it hurts your ego. And it makes you want to say, honestly, when we get defensive, we want to say, well, what makes you so special? What makes your plan any better? What, you don't like my plan? Well, shoot, let me see your plan. Let me see what you can do. You see, that's our normal human reaction as well. You're going to criticize me, well, I'm going to get defensive and I'm going to criticize you. And we need to understand that happens, I think, far more often in our life than we like to realize. How we do become very reactive. And not always reactive in a good way, if we're honest. Reactive in a negative way most of the time. And I think that's where humility comes into play, because no one likes to feel inadequate. I have not met a single person who enjoys that, or a single person who enjoys feeling like their plan or their idea or whatever it is that how they've been doing things isn't good enough. Doesn't meet the standard. No one likes that feeling. But we need to look at what humility really is compared to what God's Word says. Now, we're going to be back in Colossians chapter 3, verse 12, which we've talked about this last week. It says, therefore, as God's chosen ones, talking about believers, holy and dearly beloved, holy meaning set apart, put on compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Again, to kind of recap, sanctification, which is what we're talking about, is the process of becoming more holy, which we know the word holy means set apart. So sanctification is the process of becoming more set apart, meaning the process of becoming who we were before Christ to being more like Christ. And that process, which I'll give you a little hint here, it never stops. We will constantly be going through sanctification for the rest of our lives, because until the day we die, we will never reach perfection. We will never reach the point of being just like Christ. So sanctification is one of those things that's going to be a lifelong process. It's not something that one day you just meet and say, hey, great, I am finally sanctified. Awesome. It just doesn't work that way. So it is a lifelong process that we're going to be going through. And are things that we should constantly be growing on anyways. You see, in this verse, Christ commands us to humble ourselves. Put on compassion, kindness, humility. Humility is humbleness. Humility, by definition, is having or showing a modest or low estimate of one's own importance. Well, you might be saying, well, that's kind of a dreary thing to think about. Kind of putting a low value or estimate on my own importance. Like, that almost makes you feel like, well, shoot, does that mean like I'm worthless? Like, I should walk around feeling like I'm worthless, feeling like, man, I'm not important. I'm not anybody special. Well, no. It isn't, because we know in Psalms 139 it tells us that you are wonderfully and beautifully made. So we know that you are worthful, not worthless. Like, you have so many things about you that are beautiful and wonderful because that's how God made you, and you are wonderfully and beautifully made. But we need to understand that it's not talking about having a low self-esteem. It's not talking about having a low self-worth. What it's talking about is the opposite of arrogance and pride. You see, because the opposite of humility is arrogance. See, what God is saying here is that the way that you react and the way that you respond to things matter. And we need to respond and react not only in a loving and compassionate way, but in a very humble way, showing humility. And, it's about not being arrogant, not being prideful, not thinking, well, I am something special. I am something important. How dare you question me? How dare you think my idea is not good enough? How dare you think that you're better than me? Those are all arrogant and prideful statements that God is saying, hey, you're not supposed to have that in your life. That's not the person who I want you to represent in this world. And it does matter. Ask yourself, well, why does it matter? Who cares if I'm a little prideful? Who cares if I get a little big-headed? Is there really anything wrong with that? Am I really hurting other people? Well, here's the thing. There's 3 things I really want to dig into today that really build on humility. The first one is we need to realize that your reactions speak louder than your words sometimes. The way that you react can speak so many volumes and say so many words. Because honestly, anybody can claim to be a Christian, right? Here, let's try it real fast. I'm a Christian. Bam! How hard was that? See, that was simple. It was easy. Anybody could do. My 2-year-old son, because I could probably get him to say, I'm a Christian. It's so easy to say it. Be seeing it's not just about saying it, is it? It's about how we act. It's about how we react. That represents so much more, and speak louder as our actions speak so much louder than our words. Christ said to be believers in actions, and this also means reaction. It's how we react to bad situations. It's how we react to any situation, that even good situations. We can react very unchristlike in good situations when we become arrogant and prideful and pretty much gloat and boast about how awesome we are. And I got a story one time when I was a youth pastor, oh my goodness, 7 years ago. I was kind of new in ministry, and I was taking a student home. We just had a game night, I believe, at the church. And we went and got Sonic. I got him a drink, and we were driving, and my drink slipped out of my hand. I was going to pick it up, slipped out of my hands, fell, and just burst all over my floorboard on my side, and just got everywhere. And I remember when that happened, the student, you could tell he was he was just waiting for me to just blow up, waiting for me just oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened, stupid cup, blah, blah, blah. And not to boast about myself, but when it happened, I was like, well, that stinks. Oh, well. And I remember his reaction was kind of that's it? Wow. He's like, my dad would have just blown up if that happened. Not to trash his dad, but you see, my reaction said so much to him. Because he saw the reaction of his father, which was anger and outburst. And, oh my gosh, this is horrible, this is stupid, blah, 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 blah. And he saw my reaction of, well, what are you going to do? I can't change it, so why am I going to let it, just foul my mood up? You see, my reaction spoke so much louder than the words I said that day. He remembered that. That stood out to him. That, hey, something bad just happened. But he reacted calmly, he reacted humbly, he reacted, without letting his anger get the best of him. And don't get me wrong, I've had moments, I don't want to sit here and make you think oh, I never lose my temper. I do. I have those moments where, I get mad and yell and get frustrated, primarily when I'm working on my car, but it does happen. So I'm not anything special, but your reaction matters, and that's the point of this, is to realize that reacting in a godly way can speak so many more words. It can speak so much louder than the actual words we say sometimes. And the cool thing is, the second part I want us to realize is that Jesus set the example on how to be humble. Let's be honest, if there's anybody in this world that has the right to boast about who they are, it's Jesus Christ. Right? He's the Son of God. He was perfection personified. So if anyone has the right to boast about how awesome they are, it's Jesus. He would be completely justified in doing that, but he didn't. Jesus constantly was a servant. Jesus constantly humbled himself. Jesus constantly made it not so much about him, but he constantly pointed to the Father. He constantly said, listen, no, pray to him, focus on him. Jesus was all about humility. He ate with sinners, and he never bragged about who he was or what he was doing. He never did. He just loved and considered so many more people as more important than himself, and he just served them, and he didn't care. And he was the perfect example of humility. And that's the example that we should follow. Guys, we shouldn't allow the things that we do allow to interfere with us loving on people, like our social standing, like our financial standings. It's so hard sometimes to get past that, to think, well, I want to go show this guy love, but, I know he, has a bad reputation. If my friends saw me with him, dude, you know what they would say? You know what people would think if they thought I was friends with him? Like, I can't do that. Like, you see, that's our own worldly pride and arrogance getting in the way of loving on people and serving people the way that Christ wants us to do it. We should be those people that we just show love to everyone. That if I went to your friends and said, hey, tell me about this person, they would say, well, first of all, he's awesome and he's nice to everybody and he shows love towards everyone. Like, that's how it should be. And we don't always add up. And the great thing is that's okay, because if we did add up all the time, we would be perfect, and that's just not the case. It's not okay that we mess up, but it's more of okay in that don't let that defeat you. Don't let that, stop you. Like, get back up, pull yourself back up, keep going, and perseverance. See, that's what Christianity is all about, if we're honest. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about never giving up, never stopping when bad things happen, never stopping when we do screw up. Because I know the first thing Satan likes to do when we mess up is to make you feel horrible, make you feel like you're worthless. You can't do this. You should just quit. You should just give up. You should just put your hands up and say, I surrender, whatever. You see, that's Satan constantly getting you to want to quit. And what God is telling us to do is like, no, keep going, keep pushing. Never quit, never give up, and just keep pressing on. And that's the great thing about Christianity is the love of Jesus gives us the opportunity to keep going on, to pick ourselves back up. And that's important, because the third thing I want us to look at is how we are reflections of Christ. You see, as a Christian, when you claim that title, you are a representative for Jesus, just like in politics. In other countries, we have our U.S. representative who goes to these countries, and he is, by his position, he represents everyone. He represents our country to the other world leaders, just as other countries will send their representatives here. Just like in the U.S. government, each state has representatives that are elected to represent their state. In the same way, God says that when you are a believer, you are a representative for him. The Bible even calls us ambassadors. In 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 20, it says that you are an ambassador for Christ, meaning you are one that represents him. You're the one that is showing the world the teachings of Jesus. You're the one who is representing Jesus Christ to an unbelieving world. And that's huge. That's a huge responsibility if you think about that. Who would want to represent Jesus badly? I know I wouldn't. Like, I would hate to represent Jesus in a negative way, or to represent him in a just wrong and off way. No one does. So that's why it's so important that we recognize that we are constantly checking ourselves and examining ourselves and saying, hey, am I living up to the standard that Christ would want me to live? Not that you're going to be perfect. You're going to mess up. But am I continually striving for that? Every time I mess up, do I get back up and try to be better? Every day, do I go to God in prayer and say, God, help me to dig into your word today. Help me to read your word. And God, just help me to be the best representative for you every day. And God, every day, help me to get better. Help me to fix the things that I need to fix and improve on the things I need to improve on. And just help me represent you to this unbelieving world. That should be our goal each and every day, praying that, striving for that. You see, overall, the act of sanctification is the act of becoming a better ambassador for Jesus Christ. In other words, a witness for our faith. You see, because the process of sanctification is like our training. It makes us better. It makes us more like the one who sent us. And guys, that's what we should be living out. That's what this world needs right now. You see, there are so many instances where we can see moments of the lack of hope and the lack of love and the lack of value. The self-worth and self-value is such on an all-time low in our society. So many people, even if you're honest with yourself, you would probably say, yeah, my self-worth and my self-value is really low right now. I don't feel that like I'm a great person. I don't feel like I'm anything special. You know, I struggle with my identity. I struggle with understanding why anyone would care for me, why I'm even worth anybody's time or attention. But you see, we are. Because Jesus said that you are wonderfully made. He said that, you know, you are something special and that he made you for a purpose. You have a reason for being here. And not only are we supposed to live that, but in the same way, we are supposed to reflect that to others. Bring that hope that is in you and bring it to other people. Bring that hope that is in you and bring it to someone who's thinking about ending their life or thinking about hurting themselves. Bring that hope into you and to someone who has a family that's falling apart and crumbling. Bring that hope in you into someone who just life in general just seems to be ruined. Why? Because they need that hope. Your friends need that hope. People, your classmates need that hope. Your family needs that hope. And guys, just like we need it, we can give that to others. And that is what we should strive for. That is why sanctification is so important. Because when we can truly grasp that lifestyle of sanctification and everyday striving to be more forgiving, more kind, more loving, having more humility, man, we are going to represent Jesus in such a powerful way. You're not going to be able to stop people from noticing the difference. You're not going to be able to stop people from learning more about Jesus because you have that opportunity to share it. So guys, let's do that. Let's embrace that. Don't feel defeated when you mess up, because we all do. And guys, and let's start today moving forward, representing Jesus in kindness, in humility, and in forgiveness in everything that we do. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this series. I was excited to put together. Now let's go out. Let's do it. Let's live it and be the best ambassadors for Christ that we can. See you next time.